Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour. European leaders condemn Gabon coup. France says the result of the recent election in the Central African country should be respected.
The whole area, starting with Central African Republic, then Mali, then Burkina Faso, now Niger, maybe Gabon, it's in a very difficult situation.
Hurricane Idalia barrels towards the coast of the U.S. state of Florida. Authorities order mass evacuations as a flood alert is issued. UK Foreign Minister James Cleverly meets his Chinese counterpart in Beijing, says the UK is clear-eyed about disagreements with China.
We are clear-eyed about the areas where we have fundamental disagreements with China, and I raise those issues when we meet.
And in cricket, Asia Cup gets underway with Pakistan in command in the inaugural match against Nepal. After Niger, the military in the Central African country of Gabon says it has seized power. The coup takes place after Gabon's President Ali Bongo was re-elected for a third term. Bongo has been in power for 14 years. A group of Gabon's top military officers went on national television to announce the annulment of elections and dissolution of institutions. They said that the military have taken over the power because the recent election was not credible.
30 août 2023.
On this day, August 30, 2023, we, the Defense and Security Forces, meeting within the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions, CTRI, on behalf of the Gabonese people and guarantor of the protection of institutions, have decided to defend peace by putting an end to the current regime. The general elections of August 26, 2023, as well as the truncated results, are cancelled. The borders are closed until further notice. All institutions of the Republic are dissolved.
Despite the coup, hundreds of people took to the streets of Gabon's capital, Libreville, to celebrate military rule. People there said that President Bongo had done little to share the country's oil wealth with the population, a third of whom live in poverty. Bongo and his family have ruled the country for 56 years. Officers who were part of the coup said they had decided to defend peace by putting an end to the current regime.
France condemns the military coup that is taking place in Gabon. France is closely monitoring the development of the situation on the ground and reaffirms its wish for the election results, once known, to be respected. So we are monitoring this closely.
Nous surveillons cela avec attention.
Right, so that was the French government spokesperson saying that Paris denounces the coup and wants the Gabon election result to be respected. The European Union says it will discuss the situation in Gabon. Take a listen to the bloc's foreign minister.
The whole area, starting with Central African Republic, then Mali, then Burkina Faso, now Niger, maybe Gabon, it's in a very difficult situation. And certainly the ministers, today defense ministers and tomorrow foreign affairs ministers, have to have a deep thought on what is going on there and how we can improve our policy with respect to these countries. This is a big issue for Europe.
And Chris Okarimga joins me from Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Chris, what can you tell us about Ali Bongo, the man, and his politics, and what are his whereabouts?
Well, Ali Bongo is a 64-year-old man who has led Gabon for 14 years. During his childhood, he studied in France and returned to the country when his father, Omar Bongo, was the president. He had a short stint as a musician, but his father told him to drop music and join politics. So he became a politician at the age of 30. He was the Foreign Affairs Minister of Gabon during his dad's tenure in power. He later became the defense minister until 2009 when his dad passed on and he succeeded him as president of this country. So the Bongo family has led Gabon for 56 years, and that, you know, stirred a lot of resentment among the Gabonese people. And the election that happened, you know, many people in Gabon have said it was a fraudulent election, it was rigged. The leading opposition candidate, Albert Ondo, said that in a number of polling stations, ballot papers did not have his name and photo. And so he was saying that was a fraudulent election, which really led to this military takeover by the army officers. And we have seen a picture circulating on social media of Ali Bongo calling on the friends of Gabon and people, his friends in the international community, to make noise to ensure that the military officers reverse this coup that has happened in his country. We've also heard from the coup leaders that Ali Bongo's son, Nuruddin Bongo, has been arrested along with other senior officers, and they're going to be prosecuted with charges ranging from corruption, embezzlement, and treason. And so there has been a lot of statements from the international community, as you mentioned earlier, condemning this coup in Gabon.
Now, Chris, at least one report says that gunfire was heard in the capital, Libreville. Another report says the country's borders have since been sealed. How are the people reacting to all of it? Is there popular support for the coup?
Well, going by the videos that we have seen of the people who poured onto the streets after the military officers announced this coup, it looks like it's a it has some popular support, because we have also been told that members of the Presidential Guard who were supposed to be protecting the president were also involved in this coup. And so there are very many people who have been fed up of, you know, the kind of governance by the Ali Bongo's government. They're saying they have been living very large, enjoying a lot of the country's wealth at the expense of the masses who are living in poverty. And so there is a lot of support towards this coup that happened, although the international community has condemned it and asked people to respect the outcome of the election. Many people in Gabon feel that, you know, it was about time that they get a change in leadership of their country.
And finally, Chris, I have to ask you this. What explains this alarming regularity with which coups take place in Western and Central Africa? I believe 8 coups have taken place in the last 4 years alone.
Well, first of all, there are a number of reasons that have led to these coups in these West African countries and Central Africa, which you have just mentioned. But at the heart of most of them is the domestic politics. Many of these countries, you know, are endowed with natural resources, but the vast majority of the people are living in poverty. And so people feel that the leaders in power are working with multinational companies from France and other foreign nations to sign deals, you know, billion-dollar deals, and the money that is supposed to come into the country doesn't end up developing the country. It ends up in the accounts of some of these leaders. And, you know, countries like France, for instance, have been, they have established military bases in countries like Guinea, Burkina Faso, Mali, and even Gabon. And so many of the people and the army officers have quickly realized that, you know, the problems of the country are really rotating around the leadership of the country. The leaders have been protected by foreign powers like France, and any rebellion that comes up is quickly quelled by these foreign forces. So they have believed that the only way to bring about change in their countries is to get rid of the leaders. That's why there's been this frequency of the coups around the world, which have been condemned by these leaders in the international community. But the people feel that, you know, they deserve much better. The country is endowed with a lot of natural resources, but they're not profiting, they're not benefiting from it. And that has been really at the heart of these coups that have been happening in Western Africa, Central Africa. Recently, just last month, we had one in Niger, and leaders from the international community asked officials from the economic community of West African countries, you know, to take some action, very serious action, to stop this and reverse these coups. But the people and the army seem to be together, and it will be very difficult to, you know, to fight them. Sharif?
All right, Chris, thank you for now, but we'll keep coming back to you for more as we go along for the latest on the developments in Gabon, where, as we've been reporting, a military coup has just taken place. After Niger, the military rulers in Gabon have seized power, and the coup takes place after Gabon's president Ali Bongo was re-elected for a third term, and Bongo has been in power for 14 years. All right, Mr. Amrit Lugun joined me for more on the coup in Gabon. Mr. Lugun is a former Indian ambassador to Sudan, Yemen and Greece. Ambassador Lugun, welcome to DD India News Hour. Now, do you think the recent election in Gabon was flawed and that President Ali Bongo's win was not credible, or was it just a ruse to seize power?
Well, if we this election was held quite secretively, where you know, a lot of there was a gag on the media. The observers were not allowed. So there was a lot of secretive around this election, though, of course, whoever witnessed, they say it was free and fair. Though, of course, the voter turnout was also not as the expected level. It's officially says around 56 or 57%. But the background also to this election can be when we go back to the last election, which was held in 2016, which was quite controversial, you know, where Mr. Ping, who was the opposition candidate or the rebel or the number 2 candidate against Mr. Ali Bongo, and who used to be with his father, you know, he, as per official result, lost by just around 1% of vote. You know. And there were a lot of allegations of malpractice, and in that where the constituency where the Bongo family comes from, the Mr. Bongo, I'm talking about the last election, was supposed to have received more than 90% of the vote. I think around 95%. So that itself raised a lot of concerns. Ki how can this be? And that made the official difference. And then there was a lot of challenge. There was violence, etc. And since then, of course, Mr. Bongo with his supporters and also perhaps international community was in this allowed to continue. But we should also know that there was already a discontent. Or he was declared winner, he was allowed to continue, but there was a discontent in the sense that 2019 also there was, when he was still in power, there was an attempt of a coup by some junior military officer, which of course did not succeed. And then Mr. Bongo also had a bout of little ill health in 2018, and he had to leave for, I think, the treatment outside Gabon, perhaps to Saudi Arabia, and at that time there was a gap, and nobody was allowed to hold temporary power. You know, so that fear,
I'm sure many people watching this broadcast would be wondering, why are countries in West and Central Africa falling like 9 pins to military coups? We've seen it in Mali, in Burkina Faso, Niger, and now Gabon. Could it be because of dissatisfaction with the politicians, the colonial rulers, democratic processes, or all of the above?
Yeah, it's a mixture of all the above. It also has a cascading or the ripple effect. You know, if one country military or succeeds in gaining power, the other places also, they take a cue. And the rulers who have been elected to the power to be whether president or whatever you call, they have also, rather than working for the welfare of the people, and as the correspondent was saying, some of them have very good natural resources, like Niger, for example, if you go by the previous one. It is rich in uranium, and most of its uranium goes to France. It's former colonial master, where the French, as you know, have 70 to 80% of their energy comes through nuclear power. But the country is seventh poorest in Africa. In the world, one of the poorest in Africa. So, there is a discontent that the wealth is being looted. Though in Niger, for example, it was the first time that a transition of power happened from an elected president to another elected president. But both were seen to be.
I'm completely running out of time. I will have to leave it at that. My apologies to you, but we'll try and connect with you sometime later on the developments in Gabon. But thank you for now. That was Ambassador Amrit Logan talking to us on the developments in Gabon. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Russian missiles hit Kyiv after Ukraine steps up drone attacks inside Russia. And UK Foreign Minister says he raised human rights concerns during China visit.
Always welcoming. The vibe of Punjab is larger than life. Warm up to grandeur that's beyond compare. And history that's dotted with tales of bravery. Smiling soul of India, where music, art, cuisine and culture comes together to create an unforgettable impression. Punjab is all set to win your hearts with its unique and colorful extravaganza.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. A drone attack on the city of Pskov in northwestern Russia has damaged 4 heavy transport planes. A video showed smoke and fire rising from a distance after the huge explosion, but no injuries were reported. Russian media says 4 transport planes were damaged on the military airfield. The local governor says the military was repelling the attack. Ukraine has not confirmed its involvement in the incident. The US has vowed to continue to back Ukraine in its war with Russia as it announced a further $250 million military assistance package for the country. The US Defense Ministry says the new package includes additional air defense and artillery munitions, mine-clearing equipment and medical vehicles. The new package also includes more than 3 million rounds of small arms ammunition. More than $43 billion in US military aid has been provided to Ukraine since the start of the Ukraine-Russia conflict. US President Joe Biden has asked the country's lawmakers to approve an additional $24 billion in assistance.
Today, the Biden-Harris administration is announcing a new package of security assistance for Ukraine to meet Ukraine's critical security and defense needs. It includes additional mine-clearing equipment, missiles for air defense, ammunition for artillery and HIMARS systems, and over 3 million rounds of small arms ammunition. This package will help Ukrainian forces on the battlefield and support its air defenses. The United States and our allies and partners will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes.
Russian nationalist Igor Girkin, who criticized the way Russia has conducted the war in Ukraine, has lost his appeal against pre-trial detention. He faces charges of inciting extremism.
Russian nationalist Igor Girkin lost an appeal on Tuesday against his pre-trial detention on charges of inciting extremism, a Moscow court said. Girkin, also known as Straukov, has fiercely criticized the way Russia has conducted the war in Ukraine. And his case is being closely watched as an indication of how far the Kremlin will tolerate aggressive criticism of the conflict in Ukraine. Girkin's lawyer said he considered the ruling to be, quote, unfounded and unlawful. Miroslava Rijinskaya is Girkin's wife.
I think that the court ruling is unjust. We will be appealing the court ruling. I still hope that on the 18th, my husband will go home.
The court also confirmed an earlier ruling to remand Girkin in custody until September 18th. He is best known in the West for having been convicted by a Dutch court over the shooting down of a Malaysian passenger plane over eastern Ukraine in 2014. 298 lives were lost. He has denied he was involved. Girkin is a former officer of Russia's FSB security service who organized pro-Russian militias to fight Ukrainian government forces in eastern Ukraine in 2014. His lawyer told Reuters last month that the case against him was based on something Girkin had written on the messaging app Telegram in May. Girkin had complained that authorities in the Russian-controlled part of Ukraine's Donetsk region had failed for 3 months to provide support payments to families of men called up to fight against Ukraine. Girkin posted that, quote, to have someone shot for such a thing would be too little. His lawyer told Reuters that Girkin admitted writing the post, but did not agree that it amounted to extremism or incitement. The 52-year-old faces up to 5 years in prison if convicted.
And Dasha Chernyshova now joins me from Moscow. Dasha, reports say that Kyiv was targeted by the most powerful aerial attacks in spring. Now this after Ukrainian drones hit the Pskov region of Russia bordering Estonia. Have the defense ministries of either Ukraine or Russia offered a comment yet?
Well, just to remind you, it was not just the Pskov region that was targeted by the Ukrainian drones. According to the Russian authorities, at least 6 more regions have been under the attacks by Ukraine. We have seen and we have heard about Bryansk region being under attack, Moscow region being under attack, most recently Voronezh region being under the Ukrainian attack. And certainly this is the intensification of the Ukrainian attempted drone attacks against the Russian soil, on which the Russian president, according to the Kremlin, is being briefed momentarily. We also have heard from Maria Zakharova, spokesperson for the Russian Foreign Ministry, saying that these attacks will not go unanswered. Speaking about the attacks against Ukraine, the Russian Ministry of Defense has confirmed that overnight Moscow has carried out a massive strike with high-precision weapons against the military infrastructure of Ukraine. The Russian Ministry of Defense says that was the sea-based and as well as the land-based high-precision weapons that was attacking the command posts as well as the intelligence posts of Ukraine. So Russia says all designated targets in Ukraine have been destroyed.
As you just said, Dasha, in addition to aerial attacks, seaborne drone attacks are also being reported of late. The Black Sea in general and Crimea in particular have been targeted. Now, clearly, both Ukraine and Russia have ramped up activity around the strategic waterway after the UN-brokered grain deal collapsed last month. What more can you tell us?
Well, that's right. We have seen an intensification in the Black Sea as well. We have heard most recently from the Russian Ministry of Defense the information that they have hit and destroyed the speedboats of Ukraine. First, it was the Su-30 fighter jet of the Russian Navy, and then another speedboat was destroyed by Su-24 fighter jet. So we understand both of those speedboats of Ukraine had the crew on board. So certainly Russia says it is able to deflect all of those attempted attacks by Ukraine in the Black Sea as well. But interestingly, we have heard also that the Black Sea grain deal is one of the issues that is expected to be discussed in Moscow as well as in Sochi, in Moscow, by the foreign ministers of Turkey as well as Russia, as they will be gathering in the Russian capital for the bilateral meeting on Thursday and Friday. And then early next week, the heads of state are also expected to be touching upon these issues in their bilateral meeting.
All right, we leave it at that. Dasha Chernyshova in Moscow, thank you. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey is all set to visit Russia to discuss the lapsed Black Sea grain initiative with Russian President Vladimir Putin. According to Turkish media, Erdogan's visit will focus on the looming food crisis by aiming to revive the Black Sea grain deal. Erdogan and Putin will meet in the Russian Black Sea resort of Sochi. The Black Sea Grain Initiative had been brokered between Russia and Ukraine in July 2022. It expired on 17th July this year after Moscow quit the agreement. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has announced a referendum to recognize the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people. The referendum will be held on 14th October. The indigenous people of Australia are not mentioned in the country's constitution, even though they have inhabited the land for 60,000 years. Australian Prime Minister Albanese says it will be a landmark election in October.
On that day, every Australian will have a once-in-a-generation chance to bring our country together and to change it for the better. To vote for recognition, listening and better results. And I ask all Australians to vote yes.
Despite disagreements on many counts with China, UK Foreign Minister James Cleverly says the bilateral relation between the UK and China will not create opportunities not only for them, but also for the world.
The visit that I conduct today is the first for a number of years, and sadly, face-to-face diplomacy was disrupted right across the world because of the coronavirus pandemic. But as we discussed when you were in London, it is important that countries like ours meet and speak face-to-face on regular occasions to enhance understanding, to avoid misunderstanding, and to address the challenges and differences of opinion that all countries have in bilateral relations, but also to take advantage of our shared endeavours to address the issues that affect the wider world and our respective peoples.
Earlier in the day, Cleverly called on Vice President Han Zheng and raised several unresolved issues with him. Now, the UK is trying to improve ties with China after the relationship sunk to its lowest point in decades.
We are clear-eyed about the areas where we have fundamental disagreements with China, and I raise those issues when we meet. But I think it's important we also recognise that we have to have a pragmatic, sensible working relationship with China because of the issues that affect us all around the globe.
Take a look at some other stories making news around India. The number of passengers travelling on the Delhi metro in a day has reached an all-time high. The Delhi Metro Rail Corporation recorded its highest ever count of daily passenger journeys on Monday. With 6.8 million passengers riding the metro, the numbers surpassed pre-COVID-19 figures. Flooding continues to affect people in India's northeastern state of Assam. According to Assam's State Disaster Management Authority, more than 300,000 people have been displaced, while the Brahmaputra River continues to flow above the danger mark. According to the Indian Meteorological Department, heavy rainfall is likely to continue till 1st September. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Hurricane Idalia makes landfall in the southernmost state of the US. And EU defense ministers hold talks on the Ukraine-Russia conflict.
Welcome to Kumarakom, Kerala, God's own country.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. After the coup in Niger, now the military in the Central African nation of Gabon says it has seized power. European leaders condemn Gabon coup. France says the result of recent election in Central African country should be respected. And Hurricane Idalia makes landfall in the coast of Florida with strong winds and heavy rains. EU defense ministers gathered in Spain for a meeting on Wednesday to discuss Ukraine and the Sahel region in Africa. They also discussed the coup in Gabon. Also on the agenda was a recent coup in Niger, a key Western ally. They also held talks on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. And Alex Cadier now joins me from Brussels. Alex, did the coup in Gabon just add to the EU's many worries?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a very fair description of what that is. It is the fifth coup d'etat in French-speaking Africa since 2020. So that's more than one a year, nearly two a year in that region. And we heard from Josep Borrell, the EU's top diplomat, saying that if this is confirmed as a coup d'etat, if those state institutions are dissolved and disbanded, if the president, Ali Bongo, is replaced, well then that will increase instability in the region. That is the position of the EU's top diplomat. Now, he said that before going into the meeting of European ministers. All 27 of them are meeting in Toledo, Spain. They may come out with some more language, some more positions on that, but it's certainly something that'll be very concerning for their influence in the region and for the stability of that region, which, as we know, has had very long historical ties with Europe. We've seen the situation in Niger. Again, this defense ministers meeting will be a very big moment for those ministers to come together and discuss that situation, agree on common positions, agree on common language. We know that the EU is particularly worried about Russia's influence and the Wagner Group's influence. That may change, of course, with the death of Yevgeny Prigozhin. But certainly the situation in Gabon will be another domino to fall. And that is really what European leaders are worried about, that domino effect and how to avoid things getting worse in the region more generally. So certainly a moment of concern, and we're yet to see more, but there will be a united response from European ministers today.
And also, generally speaking, Alex, what's the EU defense minister's assessment of the ongoing Ukraine-Russia conflict?
Well, they want to reiterate their support of Ukraine in the face of Russia's invasion. That's what we heard from the Dutch defense minister. That's what we heard from Josep Borrell, the EU's top diplomat, just a few hours ago going into this meeting. There's also an ongoing discussion about more funding, more military equipment for Ukraine from the European Union. There is an extra 500 million euro, that's about $540 million fund ready to go, but it still needs to be signed off by those member states, and at the moment Hungary is blocking. And this is an opportunity, getting all those ministers together to discuss that and try to convince Hungary to lift its veto. So there's that support. We heard from the Dutch defense minister that a deal has been signed between the Netherlands, Romania and Lockheed Martin, which makes the F-16, to provide training and maintenance of F-16 fighter jets in Romania for Ukraine. So a step forward, that will be a central part of discussion, but the EU standing firm and standing by Ukraine for the weeks and months to come.
All right, Alex Cadier in Brussels, thank you. Hurricane Idalia has made landfall in Florida with heavy rains and strong winds. That's the latest information we are getting in. Now, Idalia has strengthened into a Category 3 hurricane in Florida's Gulf Coast. Mandatory evacuation orders have been issued for at least 28 of Florida's 67 counties. Most of Florida's 21 million residents and many in the adjacent states of Georgia and South Carolina are under hurricane warnings and other storm-related advisories. State emergency declarations have been issued in all 3 states. As U.S. Commerce Minister wraps up her visit to China, one major area of contention between Washington, D.C. and Beijing is semiconductor chips, which have become the lifeblood of the global economy. Tony Waterman has more.
We decided we're going to invest in America.
It's not just a campaign slogan. During his presidency, Joe Biden has helped funnel tens of billions of dollars into U.S. tech manufacturing. But he's also expanded a Trump-era tactic of control, enacting sweeping tech restrictions on the U.S.'s biggest rival, China. Chinese companies now need a license to buy advanced semiconductor chips and chip-making equipment from the U.S. Washington has also convinced Japan and the Netherlands to do the same. Then, in August, he signed an executive order limiting U.S. investments in certain Chinese technology, including semiconductors, quantum technology, and artificial intelligence.
We're continuing to make progress in fixing the supply chain. For example, we couldn't access semiconductors during the pandemic because the factories making them overseas were shut down. You all know semiconductors are those little small computer chips about the size of any fingertip that affect nearly everything in our lives.
The White House says the restrictions will protect national security and ensure American technology isn't used to boost China's military development. But Beijing sees it differently, calling the moves economic coercion and an attempt to stifle China's rapid technological growth. It has retaliated by banning certain sales by U.S. chip maker Micron.
The truth lies somewhere in between.
Economic strategist David Goldman says there's truth in both arguments, but warns that U.S. restrictions could backfire, since the Chinese are already proficient producers of highly sought-after older chips, used in everything from toasters to air conditioners.
If the Chinese are able to flood the market with cheap chips, they will cut down the profitability of Western chip makers. And the Chinese government seems willing to make substantial subsidies to its chip industry, as indeed we are, And that could lead gradually to Chinese dominance in the industry and very hard times for American shipmakers.
Instead, Goldman says the U.S. should be laser focused on boosting investment in research and development, especially in basic science, something that has faltered in recent years.
I very much want to stay ahead of China. I want the United States to be the dominant technological power, but I don't think that suppressing other countries' technological development is a viable long-term strategy. I'm not even sure if it's a viable short-term strategy.
U.S. and Chinese officials this week agreed to start exchanging information on export controls to help avoid, American officials said, misunderstandings. But one topic that won't be up for negotiations, matters of national security, leaving the U.S.-China chip war to loom over the delicate relationship between the world's superpowers. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
And in news from South America now, 2 young Venezuelans are trying to raise awareness about climate change by turning single-use plastics into valuables. In their workshop, they gave a second life to products that had been thrown away or abandoned. DD India correspondent Mary Trina Mena reports.
One man's trash is another man's treasure, says an old proverb. But here at NEO Workshop in Venezuela, nothing is considered waste. 2 young entrepreneurs came up with the idea of turning single-use plastics into valuables. But first, all bins and bottles must be cleaned, sorted, and categorized.
We're now creating and enjoying the process of seeing materials that are waste and thinking, how can we transform them? How can we take that something that's finished its useful cycle and be able to give it a second life and turning it into an object with more value than it initially had?
4 months ago, they began making flower pots by recycling plastic containers. Each pot is unique and different since the color pattern changes in the production of each piece. 18 years old Luisandro Leon is in charge of feeding the plastic into a shredder, which will break it down into much smaller pieces. The workshop processes plastic type 2 and 5, which are commonly used as food containers and plastic bottles. Then, an injection molding machine helps to melt the plastic and turn it into the final product.
When a person drinks a soft drink, throws that away, and that ruins the environment. Here, what we can do is to take that waste and reuse it to make new things.
In Venezuela, only 5% of the garbage thrown away is recycled, according to unofficial estimates. It is not mandatory for citizens to separate solids, plastic or glass waste at home. NEOS welcomes individual donations and buys recycled plastic as well. Here at the workshop, every bottle cap, plastic container, or even all discarded movies are transformed into a new world full of possibilities. The goal is to create both quality and useful objects. NEOS founders are currently testing new products, including eyeglasses frames made from 100% recycled materials. All products are sold online. The idea is to expand to a clothing and footwear line in the coming months.
In many places, we have seen the impact of pollution with images of garbage islands floating in the oceans. But with these projects, we can directly or indirectly attack these types of issues.
A sustainable and environmentally friendly business that hopes to make a profit, but also help the planet. In Caracas, Mary Trina Mena reporting for DD India.
And staying in the region, the U.S. government has unveiled a list of 10 costly prescription drugs that will be subject to the first ever price negotiations by Medicare. The 10 drugs that will be discussed include blood thinners, diabetes and heart medication, as well as a blood cancer drug. If the program is successful, the process will begin again in February next year, when Medicare will choose 15 more drugs for negotiations. U.S. President Joe Biden says the negotiations will save patients money, but the new prices will not come into effect until 2026.
Reducing the cost of these 10 additional drugs alone will help more than 9 million Americans.
All right, now take a look at some more stories making news around the world. Heavy rain leaves a trail of destruction in Bolivia. Mudslides caused by relentless rain claimed 3 lives and left many trapped. Search efforts continue to rescue people. A part of the Times Square subway station in New York City turned into a waterfall after a century-old water main broke in the station and sent water pouring in through the ceiling. Mexico's Navy seized 4 tons of cocaine from drug smugglers in the Pacific Ocean after catching up to their boat. The Navy also found 5,200 liters of fuel. It has detained 11 people. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Pakistan starts strong against Nepal in the opening match of the Asia Cup cricket tournament. And India celebrates the festival of Raksha Bandhan.
Shagato to West Bengal, India's cultural epicenter. West Bengal invites you to share its richness, to be united as one family, with one shared vision of building a better tomorrow.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. The festival of Raksha Bandhan was celebrated at Rashtrapati Bhavan, the official residence of the President of India in New Delhi. School children tied a rakhi on President Draupadi Murmu's wrist. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi celebrated Raksha Bandhan with children at his residence in New Delhi. The festival celebrates the bond of love between brothers and sisters. Children tied a rakhi or sacred thread to the Prime Minister. The children said that they were happy at the success of Chandrayaan-3 mission. They were excited at the prospects of India's first ever solar mission, the Aditya L1. The children also recited poems and sang songs during the interaction. And now to all the news from the world of sport with Anil Thomas. Anil, take it away.
Well, thank you, Ramesh. Starting first up with US Open updates, let's take a look at this report on what all has taken place in the 4th Grand Slam of the year.
Top seed Carlos Alcaraz progressed to the second round of the US Open 2023 after his opponent Dominic Koepfer retired due to an ankle injury. Koepfer withdrew his 6 points into the game after being injured while stepping backwards. Jannik Sinner is embracing his status as a US Open title contender. The number 6 seed swiftly dispatched German veteran Yannick Hanfmann 6-3, 6-1, 6-1. Former US Open champion Andy Murray earned his 200th major win when he overcame Frenchman Corentin Moutet 6-2, 7-5, 6-3 to reach the second round. Third seed Daniil Medvedev needed just 74 minutes to cruise into the second round with a dominant win over Attila by 6-1, 6-1 and 6-0. The 12th seed and 2020 finalist Alexander Zverev beat Australian Alexander Vukic 6-4, 6-4, 6-4. 19th seed Dimitrov win the 5-set thriller 6-7, 6-7, 6-1, 7-5, 7-6 to set up a meeting with Britain's Andy Murray. John Isner beat Facundo Diaz Acosta of Argentina by 6-4, 6-3, 7-6 in his final tournament in professional tennis. Sports Desk, DD India.
Well, Indian athletes are making their mark on the world stage and giving the nation moments to feel proud of. On National Sports Day, that's yesterday, DD India's Narayan Singh interacted with legendary long jumper Anju Bobby George. She won the silver medal in long jump at the 2003 World Championship in Paris and said winning a medal at the World Championship is bigger than the Asian Games. Let's listen in.
Right now, the Indian athletes are creating a buzz at the global stage, and right now we are joined by Anju Bobby George, who started that intensity that Indian also can win the medal. Ma'am, a very warm welcome. You won a medal at the World Athletic Championship, and how tough it is to win a medal at the world level?
No, in athletics, World Championship consider us the best competition where all the athletes and their performance will be better. And winning a medal, a gold, it's a world champion title what we are getting. And the toughness everybody knows. And winning a medal, it was so tough then, but it's not the scene now. The support what our athletes are getting, that changed the scene. So now we got an Olympic and World Championship title for India, and I'm really happy that I could bring India's first medal for our country. And I was the team lead here also, so the double happiness for me.
If you talk about when you are playing at the world level, and right now, what's the difference? What's the difference between the facilities in then and now?
See, then facilities-wise nothing was there. Only very few infrastructure, but we tried a lot, our best. And now the new projects like TOPS and Khelo India, athletes are getting a lot of support. And see, Neeraj and all the other athletes, they are actually blessed to get such kind of environment and support from government and from everywhere.
It's today's National Sports Day, and what's the message you want to give the budding athletes, the kind of environment right now in the country, in that context?
Sportsmen's future is bright here in our country, and everybody is like supporting sports. Everybody want to see the champions and see if you are talented, come in sports. Don't worry about anything.
So, ma'am, the Asian Games are there, and after that, next year, Paris Olympics there. What are your expectations from the Indian athletes?
I am expecting a great performance here, and see, already the World Championship we finished, and Asian Games is nothing in front of World Championship. So, good luck to all the players.
So the Anju Bobby George, who won India's first medal at the World Athletic Championship, is hoping that the Indian athletes will continue this momentum and win the medals for India at the athletics at the Asian Games and as well as at the Olympics. With camera person MK Khan, Narayan Singh, DD India, Delhi.
Well, shifting to football, Manchester City striker Erling Haaland was named the PF Association Player of the Year on Tuesday. The 23-year-old was voted ahead of teammates Kevin De Bruyne, John Stones, as well as Arsenal's Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka and former Tottenham player Harry Kane, who's now with Bayern Munich. Haaland's remarkable performance saw him net 52 goals in 53 matches across all competition last season, contributing to City's treble as they clinch the English Premier League, FA Cup and the UEFA Champions League title.
You had so much success last season. Did you think you'd be taking one of these home at the end of the season?
To be honest, yes. Yeah. After how the season ended. But again, City as a team, last season was incredible throughout the whole season, and without them it would not be possible to do it. So all praise to them for making it happen, for bringing me directly into the team, to make me feel welcome, and to giving me a lot of assists, and to play wonderful, and that we played wonderful football together. No, of course it's special, and it gives me motivation to do things more times, and to keep on going. So of course it's a really nice thing to win this.
Well, updates from cricket and Asia Cup in particular, which kicked off today with the opening match between Pakistan and Nepal. Babar Azam led Pakistan charge with a 151-run score as Pakistan ended 50 overs at 342 for the loss of 6 wickets. Iftikhar Ahmed too smashed a quick-fire century. Earlier, Pakistan won the toss and chose to bat first. The match is currently underway in Multan. The England Cricket Board has announced that English women cricketers will receive equal pay fees to their male counterparts. The move will come into play from Friday, with England cricket team playing their first T20 against Sri Lanka. England became the second nation after New Zealand to equalize or to bring parity to the salary between the male and female cricketers. The increase in women's match fee was recommended by an independent commission for equity in cricket, which found a significant pay gap that existed between men and women. Well, that's all we have time for in sports. Back to Ramesh. Ramesh.
Anil, but before we let you go, a quick round of questions on the ongoing Asia Cup. How many teams are playing in this tournament, and any guesses as to who might be the eventual winner?
Well, Asia Cup can be classified as continental glory. It can be called the Confederation Cup or the Copa America of Asia. Teams' numbers keep changing. We moved from 2 to 3, 4, 6 in this particular edition. But it's always been a rivalry between India and Pakistan that one looks forward to. And in the span of 15 days, we could almost see 3 India-Pakistan games. So an India-Pakistan final would be what fans would be looking for, Indeed. Sponsors would be looking for, and broadcasters too. And how do you look at India's preparations for the ICC World Cup coming next? Well, India's preparation seems to be in ifs and buts. But this particular tournament, especially the matches that India play, gives coach Rahul Dravid as well as captain Rohit Sharma to rethink on particularly the number 5 and 6 in this particular team. 2 places that still look very much open. There are many options that are available, but we've still not found somebody who can replace Yuvraj Singh, who can carry that burden of taking India through in crunch situations. Remember, he did that in 2007, the T20 World Cup, 2011 World Cup, and the last 3 World Cups have been won by host countries. So pressure on India to excel at the biggest stage is something that, that could be a headache for the cricketing fans, Absolutely. The players on the field, and also the board. Absolutely. Anil, thank you. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.